All right, everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. Hope and pray that you've been having a good week. I've been dragging my feet on doing this one for a while, but I decided to go ahead and start. We're going to start today is a Bible study through this book. It's called 9 Common Lies Christian Believes. The title is a little bit more grab your attention than what it's actually talking about. And so what the author is basically walking through is we have a lot of Christian cliches. And so we're going to walk through 9 of these common cliches and kind of discuss why they probably aren't true. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. And but we're nearing but I think this is a good one. And so let's look at the first one. All right. That's not gonna work. All right, somebody read that for us.
God will not give you more than you can bear.
How many of us have heard this one? Matter of fact,
so many times.
There's a whole song, right?
Yeah.
Oh, say he'll never put more on me.
Sometimes you wonder.
Well, you know, like I said, that I think it's a Kurt Franklin song that most of us have heard. I think it was back in, it's an older song, but most of us have heard that song. And then, but let's look. And this is usually where, now I'm gonna be honest with you, that particular wording is not in the Bible, but when most people use this particular verse as their backing for that. Somebody read that for us.
I can't see it.
Therefore, let the one who think he stands watch out that he does not fall. No temptation has overtaken you except something common to mankind. God is faithful, so he will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure.
All right. So when most people think about the express, well, they'll say, most of the time they'll say, well, Pastor, yeah, the Bible doesn't say exactly that God will not give you more than you can bear, but they usually use this verse as their, what's the word I want to use? They use this verse as defense or justification in some shape, form, or fashion to that statement. Okay, let's keep going. All right, do y'all feel like this verse supports the idea that God doesn't put more on you than you can bear?
In a sense.
Okay, good. Anybody else? All right. Let's look at this. Anybody, has anybody seen these images? Pictured is a Ukrainian priest doing service in a bomb shelter. And most of us know that the war, they ain't even calling it a war, this conflict has been going on in Ukraine. Did the Ukrainians do anything from the outside looking in to cause the Russians to invade their country?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right? They were just minding their own business, right? So for the last, 3-4 weeks, they have been bombed and people have died and things of that nature. They're literally having service in a bomb shelter. And I brought this image up because this kind of looks like, to a certain degree, something more than we can bear, right? They have to do this. All right. So let's give some examples of why this statement might not necessarily be true. You're gonna need your Bibles today because we're going to have to do a good little bit of flipping. I should have said that from the onset. Somebody read for us 2 Kings 4:25-28.
I'll get Samuel's when we're ready for it.
Okay. Who has 2 Kings 4?
I'll read it.
All right, go for it.
Okay, 25-28. New King James Version. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi, his servant, behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, it is well. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her, and the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. 28. Then she said, did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me?
All right. Go ahead, Reverend. You said you had 2 Samuel, right?
Yeah, 2 Samuel 15,
13.
13 through 23.
Right.
And there came a messenger to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all of his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. And the king went forth and all of his household after him, and the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. And the king went forth and all of the people after him and tarried in a place that was far off. And all of his servants passed on besides him, and all of the Sherites, and all of the Pelatites, and the Gittites, 600 men which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Then the king said to Ithiah, the Gittite, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile, whereas thou camest but yesterday. Should I this day make thee go up and down with us, seeing I go whether I may return thou and take back thy brethren? Mercy and truth be with thee. And Ithiah answered the king and said, as the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or in life, even there also thy servant be. And David said unto Ithiah, go and pass over. And Ithiah the Gittite passed over, and all of his men, and all of the little ones that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all of the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all of the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness.
All right. Somebody read Psalms 137, verses 1 through 4.
1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down. There we wept when we remembered Zion. On the willow nearby, we hung up our harps. Those who captured us told us to sing. They told us to entertain them. Sing us a song about Zion. How can we sing a song of the Lord to the Lord in a foreign land?
All right. Now, that's just 3 examples. There's probably many more. Does any of these examples sound like more than the people could bear? You got David being chased by his son. You got this widow being overtaken. This widow's son, the Shunammite woman, she wasn't a widow. Shunammite woman, her son died. You got David being usurped by his son Absalom, the same son that He forgave after he killed his brother and raped his sister. That's a long story, but that's what's in the book. You got the children of Israel watching their homeland be destroyed and then forced into exile. Does any of these things sound like it might be more than they can bear?
Yes.
All right. Somebody read this for us. The first two little points.
Yes, life is more than we can handle, but it is not more than God can handle through us. The promise is not that he won't give you more than you can handle, but rather that he won't give you more than he can handle through you.
All right. You see the difference?
Yeah.
You see the
A
difference?
huge difference.
Right. It's a huge difference, right? Right?
Miss Ray, that goes back. I keep on resonating to the lesson that we had some time back. And Miss Ray, you kept remind us, use what you got in your hand. Hallelujah.
Right. On our end, we can't handle this stuff, right? So to say God will not give you more than you can bear is actually a false statement, because the implication is you can do it, right? He'll never give you more than you can bear. And then generally, when we say that, we're basically saying we want God to give, we don't want God to give us more than we feel like we can handle, right? One of the quotes he said in this book, and I found interesting, I'm gonna read this for you really quick, because I don't want to butcher it, because I know me. He said, I thought this was quite interesting. If we were honest, we make plans for ourselves that keep us comfortable, and we want God to bless those plans and stay inside those boundaries. And I was like, ooh, that's real talk for a lot of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want God to stay within the boundaries. And so generally, what we understand, we can't grow on our own. We need God. We need God's help and support, right? Another good example comes to mind of the children of Israel when they got to the promised land the first time, right? What happened when they saw the people of the land? What did they come back and report? Anybody remember?
That they looked like grasshoppers in the eyes of those people.
There you go.
And that there were giants in the land.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. They look like giants in the land, but they themselves look like grasshoppers. Now, what did Caleb and what's my man's name? Joshua. What did Caleb and Joshua say?
Let us go up at once and take the land, not beg for it. Hallelujah.
Why? Why they said they could take
God had promised them it was theirs.
There you go. They knew that they couldn't do it on their own, but they could do it with God. One of the challenges for many of us is we try to do so much on our own and get mad at God for not helping.
Yep.
And God is like, you didn't include me in the process. Don't get mad because I ain't gonna help now, right? Now you want me to help the things that got out of control when I told you what to do and what not to do, right? Now you want my help after you have messed some stuff up. No. And so I tell people sometimes the best punishment God can give us is allowing us to have what we ask for sometimes, right? We go against his will and do what we want. Sometimes God is such a gentleman, he'll be like, go ahead, do what you need to do and see what happens, right? Just like having kids. Y'all raise kids. You ever got to the point where you keep telling them not to do something, not to do something, not to do something, they won't listen, and you finally be like, you know what, go ahead, do it. Right? Remember a story of my daughter when she was like 2. She came to visit me in Seattle, and she's jumping on the bed. Now I had my bed. Don't judge me. I had my bed in the closet because the closet was big enough to secure a queen size bed, but I ain't had no furniture. So we won't get in there. Anyways, so but the closet still has a little bit of space. Those little gaps on the sides to stop jumping, money before you fall between the bed and the wall. She's steady jumping, thinking it's cute. Guess what happened to her little behind? She fell between the bed and the wall. And she sitting there, ooh, and what did I say? As a good Southern parent, that's what you get. Sit there for a second. Because I had told her multiple times what not to do. But she wanted to use her free will, remember that, to do what she wanted to do. So she had to accept the consequences. Now, of course, I ain't let her stay there, but for a second. But oftentimes that's what God does for us, right? We want to do our own thing and then get mad. And then sometimes the stuff the Lord calls us to do is more than we can handle, right? I think about my own life. Pastoring a church is more than I personally can handle. I need God's help in the process, right? For me, Philmont, being a pastor is too much for me to handle. But with God, there I go. You get what I'm saying? All right, let's look at some scriptural supports. Who has Psalms 46:1 for us?
In verse 1, God is our shelter and strength, always ready to help in time of troubles.
Oh,
thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Somebody read Isaiah 41:10 for us.
Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will help thee, yea, I will strengthen thee, yea, I will uphold thee with thy right hand of righteousness.
All right. These two scriptures remind us that God said he would be our help. What did he say in the Psalms? That he's a very present help in a time of trouble, right? And so we need to keep that in mind. All right. What we have to understand is, and I talk about this all the time, but God is sovereign. Sovereignty, sovereign means God can do whatever he chooses to do, right? And so we can't trust God's sovereignty when things are good. We have to trust God's sovereignty even when things are bad. Do you get what I'm saying? If he helped us through the good times, what makes us think he won't help us through the bad times? Understand in life, there's a timing for everything. This is a very popular verse. Somebody read, it's on your screen. Ecclesiastes 3:1-4 for us.
Wait a minute, I'm almost there. Ecclesiastes 3:1-4.
Right.
Everything that happens in this world happens at the time God chose. He set the time for birth and the time for death, a time for planting and a time for pulling up, a time for killing and a time for healing, the time for tearing down and a time for building. He set the time for sorrows and the time for joy, the time for mourning and the time for dancing.
All right. So what Ecclesiastes, or Kohelet, as the Jewish people call it, is trying to point out is there's a time for everything. And oftentimes we get frustrated with God about timing, but we have to believe the same God who was with us during the good times is the same God that's going to be with us during the bad times. Okay. So we have to trust God in the process. Now, Paul has a good example in 1st and 2nd Corinthians 12:7-10 about what it means to trust God's sovereignty even in bad times. Most of us know this, but somebody read that for us. 2 Corinthians 12:7-10.
Because of the extraordinary greatness of the revelations, for this reason, to keep me from exalting myself, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. Concerning this, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might leave me. And he has said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I would rather boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in distresses, in persecutions, in difficulties, in behalf of Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
All right. So Paul is writing, he says, he's been given there. We don't know exactly what this thorn in his flesh is. people have speculated a bunch of different things. I've heard poor eyesight. Some people have said it's been certain sexual desires, but we don't know for sure what he's talking about. He might be vague. He might have been vague for a purpose, right? Vague for a reason. And so notice what the text says. He asked God how many times for God to remove this thorn from his flesh.
3.
And what did God say each time?
His grace was sufficient.
Right? Which is, in other words, he's saying what? No.
No.
Right?
I don't know why you didn't say that, Sister Ray. I hear you laughing.
No, that was the correct answer. It was correct.
Yeah.
The correct
Yeah,
answer
I
was
know it.
my
I
grace is
know it.
sufficient, right?
Yeah.
But the resonating, but if you say, God, can you move the thorn for my flesh? My grace is sufficient. Okay, so that's a no. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So God, I mean, this is really uncomfortable. I really, really don't like this. My grace is sufficient, Philmont. Okay, that's 2
And
no's.
then it should force me to really bring into focus his grace.
So think about that. Because we oftentimes say, oh, everything in God is yes and amen. It's a good example of a no. 3 times he's been told no. And so, but going back to God's sovereignty, look what he says, because of the extraordinary greatness of revelations, to keep me from exalting, to keep me from getting too high. Sometimes it isn't God's will that some things torment us. Right?
Yes.
Because some of us would get the big head otherwise.
Yeah.
Probably would. Right? I'm not going to sit here and lie. But sometimes God has to remind us, and I think that's the thing that was for Paul. Anytime this thorn in his flesh, no matter what it was, started acting up, it kept him from, look at it, it kept me from exalting myself, right? So that way Paul's message wouldn't be lost to the people because he started bigging up himself. God went on ahead of time and humbled him, right? And so obviously this thing was more than he could bear, right? Because he asked God 3 times to remove it. If it was something that he could handle on his own, he would have just done it, right?
Yeah.
But he couldn't. And what did he say? In my weakness, then I can see God's strength, right? Because that makes me realize I can't do it. I got to wait on and trust God to do it. Some of us know, some of us has been there, right? Some of us have been in a situation where we can honestly say, I can't do it, but I'm going to have to trust and believe God to do it.
Yeah.
We say it, but we don't do it.
Say it.
Well, in my case, I got forced into the situation. If I could have fixed it myself, I would have, Sister Ray. But it was in such disarray. I had to wait.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. If I could have fixed it, guess what? I would have done it. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And many of us, that's our testimony. If we could have fixed it, we would have done it.
Yeah. And would have messed it up too.
Well, that's generally how it went down. The point I'm trying to make is this, and Paul lets us know that we have to rely on God. The author lifts up something interesting. He says we act as if we can do everything on our own. But he said the reason why our lungs even take in air is because God allows it. I was like, ooh, that's deep.
And you know,
What?
And in relying on God, the situation oftentimes does not involve me as an individual, which it does. But you know, I want to fix situation with my children, with my grandchildren, with even with spouse, with siblings, you know, and they just can't be fixed in my own strength.
Right. I personally feel that's the area where we have to trust God the most, right? When it comes to fixing broken relationships or damaged relationships, with family members, friends, because granted, in those situations, if we could fix it, we would have, right? But like
Yeah.
Sister Green suggested, most of the time we end up messing up even worse, right? And I feel you.
Yep.
I was trying my hardest to fix the situation between me and my son, but the other song that I love, When I Gave It Up, that's when he blessed me, because that song speaks volumes. Because when you move out the way and kind of say, you know what, God, I can't do this, I'm gonna have to trust you in the process. That's when you start seeing at least some hope or some growth or something. You get what I'm saying? And for a lot of us, we've made some mistakes, and it's hard trying to fix that stuff, right? And so sometimes that's our thorn in the flesh, thinking about the mistakes that we made and the situation we got ourselves into. I mean, plenty of times said to myself, boy, how could I have been this stupid, or stuff like that. But we understand that God can use our mistakes for his glory, right? He can use our shortcomings to get the honor, right? All right, let's continue on. Now, the reason why God can be with you in every situation, support you in every situation, because he can identify with it, right? Somebody read this first thing for us, that first bullet point.
One of the
Go
ahead
ahead,
on,
sister.
bro. You go ahead on.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to screenshot, so
Go ahead,
you
go
go ahead
ahead.
on.
Wow. One of the main reasons he can handle whatever we are going through is because he is a God who can identify with his creation.
All right. So we serve a God that identifies with his creation. And so we talk about Jesus, right? Let's look at some stuff Jesus went through in his earthly life that he can identify with a lot of the struggles and trials that we've had. All right. First one, Jesus understood poverty. Somebody read Luke 9:58 for us.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I said we would do some flipping. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's a good thing for me. Luke 9:58. And Jesus said unto him, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head.
Think about that. Jesus understood poverty. He understood what it was like to lack and be without, right? All right, let's look at Jesus understood betrayal. Somebody get Mark 3:21. And then somebody grab Mark 14:72. And Matthew 26:15.
When his family heard about it, they set out to take charge of him because people were saying he's gone mad.
So imagine that your own family thinks you're crazy. How many of us have heard that before? Your own family think you're crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of us have been there.
Who called you to preach?
And I always say, keep living.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because today marks the 12th anniversary since my trial sermon. And honestly, Reverend Williams, I wasn't even gonna tell my family. Because I didn't think they would believe it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep this to myself. A pastor told me not to. That was his good godly wisdom, but my intention was to be like,
But and I won't say, however, in God's own way, when I got saved in 1987, and I will never forget it, I went home to my brother's funeral 2 years later. And one of my family members had heard about my conversion and everything. And with that day or two, they saw me before the funeral. They said, what you gonna do, preach now? I don't know. They went, not from recognizing and being demeaning towards my salvation, but they went on to say, what you gonna do, preach now? But now I'm waiting for the day to tell them and say, you was right.
The prophet didn't even know it. All right, who got Mark 14:72?
I have.
Okay.
Just then a rooster crowed a second time, and Peter remembered how Jesus had said to him, before the rooster crowed 2 times, you will say 3 times that you do not know me. And he broke down and cried.
So he not only did his family think he was crazy, his own friends, because you got to remember, right before this, Peter is beat his chest. Jesus, I'll die with you. Some of us know it's like those friends who say, oh, I'll do anything in the world you ask me. And then when trouble comes, you can't find them.
Mhm.
Matthew 26 and 15, who has that?
And said unto them, what will ye give me? And I will deliver him unto you. And they covenanted him with 30 pieces of silver.
All right.
Judas.
Oh, Judas. So not only did he understand what it felt like to be betrayed by his family, his friends, even one of his disciples, one of his very own. All right. Jesus understood grief. So somebody get Luke 19 and 41. You don't need to. Okay, matter of fact, can you guess what what John 11:35 is, right? Shortest verse in the Bible.
Jesus wept.
Good. So don't even look that one up. So I look up Luke 19 and 41.
Wait a minute.
19 and 41. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
All right. So Jesus understood grief over his people. And then we talked about Jesus wept. Somebody read Isaiah 53 and 3 for us.
Oh, God. Isaiah 53. Come on, Isaiah, where are you? (53:3). Oh, we despised him and rejected him. He endured suffering and pain. No one could ever look at him. We ignored him as if he was nothing.
All right. So the Bible speaks to the Messiah as being the suffering servant who was despised by men. And one that's very familiar for those of us who've been to Seven Last Word service, Matthew 27 and 46.
And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
So you imagine in his grief, in his been looking at God, walking with God all this time, and he just felt forsaken. All right, let's continue on. So with that, Jesus understands what we're going through, and then he made us some promises. Somebody read a couple promises from Jesus. Hebrews 13 and 5. What is the Hebrews 13 and 5 say?
Why Hebrew don't come on here?
Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he had said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee.
All right. Jesus says he'll never leave us nor forsake us. Who has Hebrews 4 and 15?
4:15. Be on your guard against him yourself, because he was violently opposed to our messes.
All right. John 14 and 18.
I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you.
John 16 and 33.
16. These
30.
things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. And in the world ye shall have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world.
All right. Be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. All right. So we're going to, I think this is the last slide. I don't want to click it. So let's look at some stuff. So we got Philippians 4:10-13 on the screen. Somebody read that for us.
Rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know that it is to be in need. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength.
All right. So Paul is speaking about contentment. He's talking to the Philippians. This is one of the churches Paul had planted on his missionary journey. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But anyways, Paul was saying that he has learned to be content in whatever situation he has found himself in. Why? Because he didn't put his trust in himself. He put his trust in God. Do you get what I'm saying? And so because of that, Paul understood what it means to be content. Now, let's deal with verse number 13. Because most of us have heard people use this over and over again, right? And let me go ahead and be honest with you. It is a misquoted verse. We apply it wrongly. In a lot of cases, people say, "Oh, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." It's not about scoring a basket. It's not about winning some kind of sporting contest. What Paul is, you got to understand what's going on in context. Paul is writing to the Philippians. He's on house arrest. He doesn't know when or if he's going to die. And so as he's writing to the Philippians, thanking them for their gifts, he's also letting them know, no matter what happens, I can do all this through Christ who strengthens me. In other words, I couldn't withstand this pressure and fear on my own, but I can do it all through Christ who strengthens me. Do you get what I'm saying? And so we got to make sure when we read the Bible, we put it into context. All right. So after all of this, after all this talk, after all we've done, now, do you believe that God puts more on you, does not put more on you than you can bear? What say you?
Oh,
Well, it's like what you said in the very beginning. He don't put any more on us than
he think that he, yeah.
No, this is like an open discussion at this point. So I presented my case. So what say you? Do you think God puts more on us than we can bear?
Sometime, Pastor, I'm just gonna be honest, I wonder. Because sometime when things come upon me and I know, I say, well, he's not gonna put no more on me than I can bear, but yet it's still, I have that doubt in there sometime, and I know I'm not supposed to, but I feel like it's a lot to bear sometimes.
Okay.
But I need to trust him. I need to trust him
Okay.
and believe that,
but I think it's like you said in the beginning, he won't put any more on us than he can handle through us. When you said that in the very beginning, when we were that's what I'm thinking it is. And I'm looking at whatever I'm going through, then I just need to be patient, because I wouldn't be going through it if he didn't think that he couldn't handle it through me.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I need to look at it, and not be saying, oh God, why is this happening to me? It's
Yes,
happening to
yes,
me because he thinks that
yes,
whatever it is through me, he can make it right. So
yeah, yeah,
that's the way I see
So
it.
let me say this, Sister
yeah.
Green. It is okay to feel that some things are unbearable because they probably are.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why some of these Christian cliches, we need to kind of tone them down, because think about that. To a brand new Christian, you say, God would never put more on me more than I can bear. But they come in the door with drug addictions or struggling to feed their kids. They're looking like, well, hold on. What you mean it's too much? He will never put, I'm already at my breaking point now, hence why I came to the church. You see what I'm saying? And so I do believe that we do people a disservice painting, if we tell people, instead of telling people God will give you more than you can bear, God won't put more on you that he can't work through you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do it, but trust God
but
in the process.
Yeah.
He'll do it through you.
Yeah. Well, Pastor, that's just like I went somewhere Saturday and I prayed before I went in. But looked like when I went in, bam, all hell looked like it like, I'm gonna see if you're gonna trust me, seemed like what I prayed for, the opposite came to me. It's just like, am I making sense?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. So you're saying, you said, God, don't I trust you, but don't let these people act crazy. And as soon as you walk through the door, they acting crazy.
And I'd be wondering, Lord, are you hearing my prayer? Or am I?
Well, this is what I always tell people: faith that's not tested can't be trusted.
Yeah.
So how is he going to test your trust in him unless you go through some stuff?
That's what I thought. I said, he's putting me through something. He's sending me something through something to see if I can handle it.
Keyword, see.
Or am I going to trust him?
That's what I'm saying. See, but remember, now watch what you're saying. Can I handle it? It's not about you handling it.
Okay.
That's what we mess up.
I hear you.
Because we do it so often we don't think about it. But that's where, if you look at the statement, God will never put more on you than you can bear. What we're kind of saying, you got to be careful about what you speak. What we're saying is, God will never give me more than I think, like the book said, that I think I can handle. And that's not true. Some of us know that for sure. God, you be like, Lord, how in the world did I, am I supposed to handle it? Because it's too much for you.
Yes.
But because of God's grace and his mercy,
that's
how we make it through. And so it puts the reliance back on God and takes it off of us. And so for some of us, we want to be the captain of our own ship. We want to be we want God to do exactly. We want to be, like I tell people, we want to be in the ways and means committee of our own prayers. Well, God, I need you to show up this way. And hold on now. When you do that, you're attacking God's sovereignty, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so if we pray for God to do something, we have to, I tell people in a lot of really big prayers, there's going to be a season of silence. And I think that season of silence is because God's truly trying to see if you're going to trust him. He's probably working it out on the back end. You don't know it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be faithful and keep walking? You know what Martin Luther King said? Faith is taking the first step when you don't even see the staircase. Will you do it?
And then another thing too, we always pray what we want. But we forget about it. But we forget about it. It's his will. It's his will.
Watch yourself, Sister Ray. Watch yourself.
I'm with you, Sister Ray. I'm with you, right? I'm trying to learn how to pray like Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
I know what I want.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, thy will be done. Them nevertheless prayers are hard, buddy. I want what I want. I don't want to go through this suffering. I don't want to go through these angst. I don't want to have to go through all this drama. But not my will. Thy will be done.
But his will.
Yeah.
And when he takes you through it, he'll work it out.
Right. And so I think sometimes I think the challenge with this statement is that it implies that it's more on us. We're relying on our own strength. And for those of us who have gone through some serious stuff, you realize your strength is definitely not sufficient, right? Your own doing if you had to do it yourself, it's just not going to work out, because that's you don't have it in and of you to do it, right? But if you trust in God, He'll do it through you, right? I'm talking to a friend of mine about this, who is a single mom, and she was like, so I can't raise this kid by myself. I was thinking to myself, God, no. You know, I think that's, for most of us, that's when we first learn how to trust God a lot, is with our children, because we can't do it on our own. We got to trust the Lord to help us with it, with a lot of this stuff. And so I do believe this is a good, it's an interesting book, and it's a good thing for us to study, because we say a lot of these things a lot of times and we don't really think about what we're saying. It just sounds really nice and Christian-y, right? God will never put more on you than you can bear, brother. And some of us looking around like, bro, I'm going through a lot. Like I'm like, life is kicking me up one side and down the other. So what you mean He ain't gonna put more on me than I can bear, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And then we also need to be letting them know. I don't ever tell them that, but He never said it was gonna be easy. He told us that we were gonna find trouble in the world. We read one of the scriptures, John 17:33, where He told us that it's going to be trouble. But and you know what I say to people who say they can't do this on their own? You're not on your own. God is always with us.
There you go.
It's never just you. That might be all you see, but it's more than just, you're never alone. You're never alone. So
I think that that last statement reminds me of that verse in the Bible where I think it's the prophet, and he says, "What do you see?" Like, I don't see nothing. Then he says, "Look again." And you see this giant army.
Look again, and I see a little.
Or even that one too, right? I see a small cloud like size of a man's hand rising up out of the ocean. And so sometimes we gotta look again.
You're not alone, because it's many of us that have we're gonna say alone physically. We don't see anybody there helping us, but we know it's somebody there helping us. We know God is there with us. He's not the first one to not have a mate, so to speak, to raise children, but God is always there to help. That's the way I look at it. I know He was there for me.
Right.
Me too.
All right. Well, we're going to close out for the video. For those of you watching, God bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and give you peace.